today's class, we're going to focus on knee joint mobility and stability. The knee joint is a very complex joint that involves movement of flexion and extension. It also has a little bit of side to side movement, a little bit of abduction and adduction, and it also has a slight gliding movement. So when the knee fully extends, there's a slight glide of the top bone, which is your femur, over the tibia, and the knee joint actually known as the tibiofemoral joint. So we're going to look at this joint today, but we're also looking at how the placement of the feet and the position of the ankles will affect the knees, and connecting really obviously the knee joint to the whole body. So we can't look at it in isolation, we connect it with the whole body position, how we hold ourselves in standing and so on. So let's come to lying down. So the first half of this class is really looking at the muscles that move the ankle joints, working with the foot to begin with, and then gradually moving up to the knee itself, working with some stability exercises. So let's lie on the floor. So we're going to lie down, and we're going to start with just a little bit of a check-in, so a little bit of a soma scan. So when you lie down, just find a comfortable position. And if you have glasses, you might find taking the glasses off quite helpful, quite useful. I'm going to take mine off for the moment, and then I'm just going to relax down and maybe even close the eyes there. So let's take this opportunity to just notice what we can feel. And you can perhaps start with a nice deep breath in. And as you exhale, you're going to allow your whole body weight to release. And let's notice what we're feeling at the moment in this body of ours, the sensations which change from moment to moment. Notice how you're feeling right now in your body, sensing where your body meets the floor, starting with the feet. Notice the calf muscles. Notice the space between the back of the knees and the floor, the back of the legs. Notice where your pelvis meets the floor. Sense into the lower back. Sense into the shoulders, upper back, the arms. Notice where the hands are facing. Notice the back of the neck and where the head meets the floor. Begin to sense the front of the body as well, around the ankles, the knees, thighs and hips, around the abdomen and chest, throat and face. And as you tune into your breath, just with each out breath, letting everything soften in the body, so that we let go of what tension we might be holding on to. As much as we can, we release what we can. We can pay attention to the breath, the feeling of the breath. And every exhalation is just allowing us to soften that little bit more. Soften around the forehead as well, the face, the jaw. Letting the breath effortlessly move in and out of your body through the nose. And there's nothing we're trying to achieve here as such, as we go through the movements, but we are trying to improve our awareness. So as we improve bodily awareness, we're able to notice our posture, we're able to notice how we walk, we're able to notice when we start to hold tension in the body. And particularly today, we'll notice how we place the feet on the floor, because that's really going to affect your knees. but also the position in the whole body, how that might affect the knees. So we're going to actually start by just doing a whole body movement that we've worked with fairly frequently in the last few videos, and it's known as the flower. So you can bring both feet to the floor, and this is just a movement to get the spine, the hips and the shoulders moving all together. So in previous videos we've explained this in a fair bit of detail. So today we're going to go straight into the movement by just gently arching the back, and as you do that, take the knees wide and at the same time roll both arms away from the center of the body until you feel a nice contraction through all the back muscles there, and then let that slowly release, and you bring the the knees back up and the arms roll in and the lower back begins to flatten to the floor. Let me let the head tip back. You can even press the knees together, and then you release the contraction through the front, open the legs, arch the back, knees wide, and rolling the arms out, external rotation. Really feel that nice squeeze between the shoulder blades, and then bringing everything back into the center. So you're just like you're drawing everything back toward the navel. And everything contracts at the front here, the knees press. And try that one more time. So just get a little bit of pendiculating into the shoulders, into the hips, into the neck, into the spine, the belly, the abdomen. Okay, and then back to neutral. Okay, so let's keep the feet on the floor. So we're going to work a little bit with the feet and an arch and flatten movement. So with this one, so we're going to start to bring the attention into the toes and then the ankles, starting to get various ankle movements. So it's about waking up awareness of the feet, of the muscles in the bottom, the top of the feet, the intrinsic muscles in the foot that are involved in toe movements, but also the extrinsic muscles in the lower leg that are involved in ankle movements. So we're starting with that. We're then going to connect it to the knee and the hip. So let's start by just becoming aware of some of these movements. So in fact, if we first of all just take hold of the knees and then just try a little flexion and extension of the toes. Just a few times, flex and extend. Okay, so that's toe movement, flexion and extension. Now let's try the ankle movement. So you're going to plantar-flex the ankle by pointing the foot down. That's called plantar-flexion. Feel what contracts as you do that, and then dorsiflex, point the toes up. Plantar-flex, toes point down, or whole foot points down. Dorsiflex, point the feet up. Feel what contracts as you do that. So as you point the feet down, plantar-flexion, the flexor muscles are in the back of the leg, the calves, and soleus and gastrocnemius. And then as you point the toes up, dorsiflex, you've got these muscles that dorsiflex the ankle, and they're in the front of the shin. Okay, and then now try turning the soles of the feet in towards each other. So it's called an inversion, and then away from each other, in and out. So we know these directions, and then what you can feel is perhaps muscles on the inside of the shin towards the back of the kind of inside back, so medial side of the shin bone, the tibia, and then on the outside you have these other muscles that are involved in turning the feet out, and they've all got obviously loads of different names. So peroneals on the outside. Then let's bring the feet down. So let's add some of those movements to an arch and flatten movement now. So we become aware of some of the movements of the toes, the ankles, and now we're going to just start by slowly arching the back. And as you do that, just raise the soles of the feet up, but keep the heels on the floor, and flex your toes, point the toes down. And then let the back slowly release as you bring the feet back to the floor. And as you flatten the back, just point the toes up toward the ceiling, extend the toes. So you're arching the back and you're lifting the toes and scrunching, flexing the toes. So you lift the sole of the foot and then you flex the toes. And then you're releasing that, bring the feet down, flatten the back and point the toes up. Okay, try that a few times. Arch the back, flex the toes, bring the feet down, and then flatten the back and extend the toes. So here we're starting to get into the bottom of the feet here, waking up that awareness there. Sometimes there's a little bit of tightness in the bottom of the feet. But also when you point the toes up, feel what contracts on the top of the feet going up the front of the leg. Okay, and come back to neutral. All right, so that's the toe movement. So now let's connect this ankle movement with the center. So you can adjust the feet if you need to. So this time we're gonna, as we arch the back, we're just gonna lift the heels. So that's called plantar flexion at the ankle. And feel what contracts there. And then as you release the back, bring the heels down, flatten the lower back to the floor and just raise the feet up. So you're dorsiflexing at the ankle. Feel what's contracting there at the front of the shin. Let that slowly release, spine comes back to neutral. So you arch, lift the heels, toes stay down, come back to neutral, you flatten and lift the toes, heels stay down. Go smoothly from one to the other. How smooth can you make that movement? Okay, so there we got dorsiflexion and plantar flexion in the feet, in the ankle, sorry. So let's straighten out the left leg now. So just working with the right foot, we're going to try a little bit of inversion and eversion. So if you just keep the heel on the floor and raise the sole of the foot a little bit, and you're going to turn, it's like you're trying to turn the toes to your left, and it's almost like you're trying to turn the sole of the foot to the left, and you scrunch the toes a little bit. So there's a little bit of inversion there. You might feel this on the inside of the shin. And then you're going to turn, you can actually bring the foot back to center and let it relax for a moment. Then from center, lift the foot, turn the toes out to your right. It's like your sole of the foot is trying to turn out. You can even extend the toes a little bit, point the toes up, and then let that release back to center. So you lift the foot, you turn the foot into the left, and you flex the toes a little bit, and then you release back, and then you lift the foot and turn the foot out to the right, and you extend the toes a little bit, toes point up, and you release back. So try that again. So you lift the foot, you turn the whole foot to the left and flex the toes, and come back, bring the foot down. Raise the foot, turn the whole foot to the right and extend the toes. You feel this in your lower leg, you might even feel it further up the body, and then come down. Okay, now with that same leg, we're going to just angle ourselves slightly off the mat here. So ideally, your foot is going to just slide along the floor. So I might get a little bit stuck with this rug in the way, but let's see. So I'm kind of angling off. So your right foot wants to be able to slide. So go slowly with this. So we're going to let the sole of your right foot turn inwards toward the left. So that's called inversion. See if you can feel that. Now as you do that, keep the foot inverted, slide the heel up towards your right sitting bone, and let your knee, your right knee, just shift out to the right, lifting the foot. So you get a nice external rotation at the hip, and then just reverse that. Bring the foot down, slide the foot out, and let the leg relax. Now turn the sole of the foot outwards, evert the foot. Feel that contraction through the outside of the shin. And this time, as you slide the heel up, let your knee go all the way over to the left. So it's reaching across your left leg. And your pelvis turns, so your right hip will lift completely away from the floor. And then you come back to center. So let's try going from one to the other. So you invert the foot. So we're starting at the foot, so we get that nice inversion of the foot. We draw the heel up, the knee just goes off to the right. You can lift the foot a little bit. That'll give a nice pendiculation through the inner thigh muscles, the adductors. And then you release and turn the sole of the foot out. Slide the heel up, take the knee across. Okay, so you can try that a few times. Make sure that your pelvis moves with this. So especially as you're everting the foot, turning the sole of the foot out, the knee goes right across, and to allow that knee to go across the left, the right side of the pelvis lifts off the floor. Let's try that one more time. So start with the movement of the foot. Now it's the eversion, and then reaching the knee over and then coming back. Now let's see how that feels. You can come back to center for a moment. Let both legs lie out on the floor. So these kind of movements, we want to just take space in between, because we want the brain to recognize the difference that we might feel now in the two legs and the two ankles, the 2 feet. So all of these movements tend to release the muscular tension that might pull the joints out of ideal alignment. So be aware of that. There can also be muscular weakness in some of the muscles, so we'll look at that when we get to standing. Okay, let's try the other foot. So we're going to bring the left foot to the floor. So you're just going to lift the sole of the foot, turn the foot to the right, and as you do that, it's like the sole of the foot turns in a little bit, the toes point down. Come back to center, let the foot relax. Yeah. Now lift the sole of the foot, turn the foot to the left. It's like the outside edge of the foot lifts a little bit or turns out, and the toes can extend or point up. And then you come back. So lift the foot, turn the toes to the right, flex the toes, come back. Lift the foot, turn the foot to the left, extend the toes, point the toes up, and come back. So you lift, turn the toes. You might even feel some movement in the rest of the body here. Pelvis might move a little bit. Lift, and then extend the toes. Let's try it one more. So you lift the foot, turn the toes, foot to the right, flex, toes, come back to center, and down. Lift the foot, turn the foot to the left, toes extend. And this is all felt mostly in the lower leg, but again, it might bring some movement into the center. Great. Now, angle your legs off to the mat again so that the left leg can slide. I think I've got a bit of room there. And you're going to turn the sole of your left foot inwards towards your right foot. Slide the heel up and lift. So it starts with an inversion, so connecting that movement to of the ankle to the knee, to the hip, to the center of the body. Slide it out. Now go the other way. Turn the sole of the foot outwards. So it's eversion. Slide the heel out, directing it towards your sitting bone, but to let the knee go across, you have to turn the pelvis, and then you come back. Okay, so try that a few times. Inverting, the knee will go off to the left, lifting the foot, and everting, the knee will go off to the right. So making a functional movement, connecting that movement of the ankle to the knee, to the hip, to the center. It's a really nice movement for the hips. A lot of the hip muscles working here, of course. The focus really is the ankle, knees, but the hip might feel what's going on in the hips and in the center of the body. Okay, come back to center. Let's see how that feels. So that's working with the muscles of the lower leg. And that should ideally balance out any kind of muscular issues in the lower legs. So specifically any tightness there. Okay, that's great. So now we're going to work a little bit more with the upper leg, and of course the upper leg muscles can affect the knees as well. So quite often we might have weak inner thighs, tight inner thigh muscles called the adductors, weak thigh muscles, quadriceps, tight hamstrings, weak glutes. This is a common imbalances around the legs. So let's work with that. So we're going to turn over onto the front of the body, and we're going to work with a little bit of pendiculating through the hamstrings and actually connecting the hamstrings to that whole chain of muscles that run through the back of the body. So in myofascia terms, it's the superficial back line, it's called, and it's really it comes from the forehead over the top of the head, down the neck, down the side of the spine, into the sitting bone, and down into the back of the leg, all the way into the heel and the bottom of the foot. So let's work with that a little bit, but specifically working with those hamstrings to pandiculate the hamstrings, contracting, slowly releasing, and the hamstrings being part of that chain. So let's have the both hands under the head, and basically you're going to just raise up your right foot, so bending the knee, point the toes up. Now lift the head as well, and then so you'll start to feel a contraction through the back of the leg, and you might even lift the knee a little bit, and then you just let that nice and slowly release back down, and let the head come down. So everything relaxes. Raise the foot, point the toes up, raise the head, little maybe a micro lift of the knee, so pandiculating through that back chain of muscles, and release it nice and slowly, lengthening out through the back, and then fully relaxing, because that's what we're doing here by pandiculating, by contracting. So lifting the foot, lifting the head, feel that contraction. Try and feel it through the whole back of the body, from the bottom of the foot up through the back of the leg, up through the spine, into the back of the neck. And it doesn't want to feel too tight in the back of the neck though, so just be aware of that. If it does, then don't look so far forward. And then slowly release through that whole back chain. Not as slow as you can, so you can really fully let go when the foot comes down. Let's try that again. So we raise the foot by bending the knee or flexing the knee, lifting the head, maybe raising the knee a little bit. Feel that contraction through the back of the body. So the slow lengthening when we release it, the eccentric contraction, is where the brain learns to control that release. The brain learns to control that. Okay, now just allow that leg to relax. Feel the difference in the two legs. You might even feel a slight difference there. Two legs, buttock, even the whole side of that body might feel different. And if you had time to pause the video, lie on the back, check out, see if it feels any different, and then come back to this position. Okay, so we'll move to the other leg. So let's bend the knee. So it's your left knee now, point the toes up. Feel that contraction through the back of the leg, lifting the head. And that will make that whole chain of muscles through the back of the body contract. And then letting everything nice and slowly release. Eccentrically lengthening, and then coming down, relaxing. So pandiculating. 3 stages. We shorten the muscles, so that's working against gravity, concentric contraction. Then we lengthen the muscles eccentrically, so eccentric contraction, going with gravity, but still a contraction there, still the brain has to hold. And then finally, when everything comes down, you fully release. And then try that again. So to be clear here, we're doing this for the prime purpose of bringing back awareness into the body. And as we do that, we improve the way the brain controls the movement. We improve sensory motor control. And that also helps to bring muscles back to their full natural resting length. Last one there. Excellent. So see how the two legs feel. Okay, so that's working with the back of the legs, releasing the back of the legs. Now we're going to work with the outside edge of the legs. So you're just going to lie, let's lie on the right, and you can either use your arm here to support the head, or maybe a yoga block might be helpful, and you can have the lower arm out in front of you. And we're going to have the knees bent, but they don't have to be so high up for this one. So this is working now with releasing what's called the tensor fasciae latae and iliotibial band down the side of the leg. And this muscle, tensor fasciae latae, is kind of roughly at the side of the hip, but slightly forward. So it's not directly forward at the hip flexors. It's not directly out to the side of the hip abductors. It's kind of just slightly forward there at the side, kind of where you might have a pocket in a trouser. It can get tight and it can pull on that iliotibial band. Sometimes runners will get affected by a tight iliotibial band. And of course, when there is a lot of tightness in the inner thighs, outer thighs, it can affect the knee, pulling the knee, possibly leading to ligament damage either at the sides of the knees, so the collateral medial and lateral collateral ligaments. So let's start with the legs straight, and you're just going to try and feel the side of the hip, but then slightly forward of the greater trochanter. So it's the bony bit of the side of your femur there, and then the leg nice and straight, and then you're just going to lift the leg, and then feel that contraction going into that side muscle there, tensor fasciae latae. It will go down the iliotibial band right down to the knee, and then you let that release, and make sure the knee completely relaxes, it switches off. Okay, so you can feel that. Once you've felt that, then you can just put your hand on the waist, because in a moment we're going to add something else to that. And then slowly release it, let the leg relax. Try that again. So we don't want the leg too far forward or too far back. So lift. You can try turning the toes up a little bit. And release it. Let the knee completely relax. Now add a head lift with that if you can. So you lift the leg, lift the head, just like you're looking out to the side. Now we'll engage a little bit more through that, the lateral line of muscles and fascia that go up through the side of the body, and that will affect knee balance, and then relax it. Even the muscles up through the side of the body, the whole inside of the waist. Lift. Feel that nice contraction. Slow release, let go. One more time, lift. Slow release, let go. Okay, bring the knees together for a moment, relax the top arm. So we work with the top leg, outer leg here, so that will be our left here. So let's work with the right leg now. So you're going to just see if you can bend the top knee but bottom leg straight. Now if you find that's not comfortable with your knee on the floor and it kind of pulls at the back of the pelvis or something, you could take another block or two and bring your knee under that block. So with this one, the bottom leg is going to lift now. So nice straight leg, and this is going to work the inner thigh muscles, the adductors. So when you're ready, we're going to just lift that lower leg, and if they get tight, they can pull the knee medially or inwards, like we get that kind of knock-kneed position, and then let that nice and slowly release back down. So lift the leg. You might even feel that your top knee is kind of pressing into the floor, and that will actually activate the inner thigh on that top leg as well. Nice and slowly release it. Okay, so you can add in a head lift if you like. And it doesn't have to be very high, or if you feel you need to support the head, you can always use your hand reaching over the top of the head to just touch the underneath in without pulling on the head. It just gives you a little bit of support. And then let it slowly release. And then lift again. So when we lift the head, the neck muscles don't want to feel strained. If they do, use the hand support, or even bring the head, keep the head down, or just lift a little bit and try and engage through the side of the waist. And release. Okay, let's just roll onto the back for a moment. So just see how that feels. So this first half, really working on becoming familiar with the muscles in the legs, the upper legs, lower legs, and noticing their actions. And noticing when we release them like this through pandiculation, how everything feels afterwards. So let's go to the other side. So you just need to roll over. I'm gonna just switch sides, and we're gonna just take. Excuse me. Gonna take the. So I kind of prefer having the arm out in front, actually, just to keep it as comfortable as possible. And then the knees just don't want to be so high up, but just up a little bit. And then the top leg straightens. We're going to find that tensor fasciae latae, so just the side of the hip where the two bony bits are, and between that, but slightly forward, it's there. And we're going to, it's like at the beginning of a pocket, and we're going to just raise the leg up. And you could even turn the toes up a little bit, and that'll activate different fibers there, and then bring the leg down. Raise the leg. Notice if anything else wants to join in here. So if your foot is too far back, your back muscles will want to join in. So you might bring it forward a little bit. And if it's too far forward, it's the hip flexors joining in. So try and notice that. So if your lower back is doing all the work, it could be that you've got the foot too far back. You just lift. And then lower. You could try with a head lift if you like, either using the hand or just lifting that. And another thing you could do is try and reach, if you want, you can reach the top arm down the mat as you lift the foot, lift the head. And then let it release. Fully relaxing. And then you lift. And then you let it release. Letting go. Okay, great. So let's work with the lower leg. So again, actually take a pause there so legs come together for a moment. So again here, it's not so much about, for these movements, it's more about pandiculating, but there are similar movements and that will work with strengthening some of these muscles at the side of the hips. And when you strengthen, you can focus on, again, getting that whole movement, but then also holding it. So now let's work with the bottom leg. So we're going to bend the top knee. Again, you might put a book or a cushion or a yoga block under that knee if that makes it more comfortable. And then from there you can raise up the bottom leg. So bottom leg straight, so it's now adductors, inner thighs, and then slowly release. So there are a set of muscles along the inner thigh that attach to the pelvis that draw the leg back to center. So here actually we're taking the leg even beyond the center line. The position on the floor. Now you can also add in the head lift if you like, either using the hand, or you could try reaching down with the other hand as an alternative. Slowly release it. So to lift the head, engaging through the side of the waist, lifting the foot, so that it doesn't feel so much effort in the neck. Let's try that one more time. Okay, that's wonderful. Now lie on your back, see how that all feels. And you're just noticing what are you feeling now in the back of the body, in the legs, in the feet. So here, really working with releasing tight muscles. Okay, so just to kind of work a little bit with the rest of the body here, let's take the arms wide, knees bent, and we just let the knees lower to the right, head to the left. And then back up, and then knees to the left, head to the right. Okay. Next time you take the knees to the right, you're rolling the right arm downwards, left arm upwards. So it's the wash rag. Another one of our familiar movements. And as the knees lower to the left arm rolls down, right arm rolls up. So now we can get a little bit more movement into the shoulders. Okay, and then we'll come back to center. So we're going to come up to standing now, but take your time as you do that. So we've been on the floor for just over half an hour or so. So roll to one side, push yourself up, and then when you come upright, or when you come to this position, you might take a breath or two, reorientate yourself. See how you feel. Yeah, and then when you feel ready, you come over onto the hands and knees. I'm going to come straight up to standing. So one way will be kneeling, 1 foot forward if you can, without the arms. You just use your legs to bring yourself upright. Great, so we'll focus a little bit more on the balance in the feet now, but let's get some shoulder movement going. So we'll do our little shoulder rolling movement. One shoulder lifts, rolls back, the other one lifts, rolls back, and try and feel that movement coming into the hips, and let the arms sweep. You can get nice big sweeping movements. A lot of awareness into the feet and the legs and the hips. So now a little bit more movement with the shoulders, but connecting that movement to the center of the body. All right, then go the other way with the shoulders. So one goes forward, forward. And you can get the arms moving a bit more. All right, that's great. And then you might like a few big circles. Okay, good. One more. And then let's allow the arms to just sweep out as we turn from side to side. Okay, so we'll come back to the center. So let's just explore the feet now. So in this position, we're just gonna, so feet are kind of roughly below the hip joint. So your hip joint where the thigh bone goes into the hip socket, to where you feel that movement. And once you've got the feet below there, generally the toes are pointing forward. And if you can just start to shift your weight a little bit from left to right, right to left. So just start to wake up the feet a little bit. Sense where the weight goes on the inner edges, on the outer edges. Because a lot of the time we might tend to roll the feet in or out or bring the weight forward or back. So let's try going forward and back. So taking the weight into the toes, into the heels. And then you could try circling around. So it's like the whole body stays still. And you're just feeling that in the feet, feeling what's going on in the feet. And then go the other way. Okay, so let's come back to the central position. So what we're trying to find is the balance between the center of the heel. So if you bring your weight back into the heel bone, and then it wants to feel that your about 50% of the weight is going to remain in the center of the heel. So it's right in in the middle of the heel there. And once you feel that, just lift the toes, spread the toes a little bit so you feel the ball of the big toe pressing into the floor. You might even sense the ball of the little toe on the floor. So you can spread the toes, still remaining with the center of the heel pressed down. Now just let the toes gently touch the floor. So what we're trying to find is this balance between center of the heel, ball of the big toe, ball of the little toe. And those, it's like creates a tripod. And then your ankle, the tibia and fibula sit above that, and you've got basically three arches between those 3 points in the feet. So you've got the medial arch, the lateral arch, actually on the outside of the foot. You can't see it because it's got a muscle underneath it, it's quite a fleshy bit underneath it, and then there's an arch from ball of the big toe to ball of the little toe, so transverse arch, and that kind of acts as like sort of suspension, if you like, so it absorbs shocks, those arches. But we want to maintain those arches because obviously if we haven't got the arch, then the ability to absorb the shock has become limited, and then that shock is going to go up into the knees if we tend to run on concrete and so on. It might lead to cruciate ligament damage. Cruciate ligaments are between the femur, so your femur, and your tibia, which is the shin bone, and they kind of attach from one end, top end of the femur, to the other end of the tibia, and then they cross over. They're involved in sort of flexion movements. Sometimes they can get torn, and then you get this kind of sliding movement of the tibia and femur against each other, feet or femur and tibia. So we're just trying to find balance. So we find that lift, we find those 3 points, and then if you kind of bend the knees a little bit, and as though you're pushing into those 3 points now, quite firmly, so that you feel the inner arch lift. There's quite an active engagement of the inner arch of the foot, but the 3 points are pressing into the floor. And then you might feel that coming up through the shins, up through the inner thighs, over the front of the hips. And it's like there's a lift right up to the diaphragm, continuing up to the roof of the mouth. So this is a fairly active engagement here of Pada Bandha. It's known as the lock, the foot lock. So it's engaging muscles to find this lift. But that brings a lovely tall position to the body. The crown of the head begins to lift. The back and the neck lengthens a little bit without being excessively lengthened. But then we might find from that we're building up a lot of tightness. So now we want to make that, try and allow that to soften. So keep that pressure there, but now soften it at least 50%. Soften it, but find that balance. Maintain that lift of the inner arch. Soften a little bit more so the breath becomes more natural. So we feel upright, we feel supported, we've got the gentle lift of the inner arch, but we're not tense, we're not tight. Okay, so from there, let's just try a few mini squats here. So you can take the hands to the knee. So now we're working with knee stability, and what we're looking for is tracking the knee over the toes. So you're just going to bend the knees a little bit so your knees kind of line up with the toes. You can have a look, just check, are they lined up? And then come back up again. So if we've got tight adductors, what we might find is the knees drop in towards each other. Tight iliotibial band, the knees drop out. But also that could be because of the ankles. We've got flat feet, knees drop in. We tend to roll to the outer edge of the feet, knees drop out. There might be other reasons for this, it might be nerve damage and so on, that affects the muscles as well. If that's the case, we might need to see a physiotherapist. So what we're basically for this, what we're generally aiming for though, to keep our knee nice and stable, the knee joint, working with these thigh muscles, particularly the vastus medialis, the inner quadricep. And your glutes work in there as well, so they can get quite weak, the glutes. And because of that, hamstrings take over their job of trying to stabilize the pelvis. And then they get too tight. You could even with this one take the arms out in front. So it's Utkatasana, the chair pose. One thing to check, if your knees do tend to drop in or out, you could take a kind of brick size yoga block, place it just above the knees, and by pressing the knees against the block, that will keep the knees steady. And then you could also try to maintain fairly neutral spine here. Of course, if you sink lower, it's going to make your legs work a little bit more. You could even hold. Looking in a mirror or camera can also help you to notice whether you tend to stick the bum out too much or whether you tend to curl under. So we're trying to find a fairly neutral position in the spine. Come up when you're ready. So let's explore that a little bit more. So we're going to try like a one-legged squat. No, we're not going to go very deep in this squat, of course. You can start with hands on the hips. Shift the weight into your right foot and just feel the weight shifting into the foot. Noticing the balance of that foot again. Does the foot roll out? Does the foot roll in? Lift the opposite heel. Once you feel you've found your balance, we're just going to take the raised foot out in different directions, but the whole time we're trying to find stability at the knee. With the hands either on the hip or arms wider, if that helps, you're going to just take the toes to touch the foot forward and back, and then diagonally forward and back, and then out to the side. Notice your standing leg knee has to bend a little bit, really finding that stability. Diagonally out, back behind you, out to the side. Directly out behind you. And then actually behind the other legs, you're touching across. And then make a nice sweeping circle all the way around. Back to center. Shift the weight back. So the whole time trying to notice the balance in the foot. Notice any difference in the 2 feet. Okay, so shift the weight to your left foot. So as your right heel lifts, you'll feel the weight coming down that leg. Nice and stable. Find those 3 points in the feet. Center of the heel, ball of the big toe, ball of the little toe. To reach the other foot forward. Back. So you're just lightly touching your toes. Diagonally. And then out to the side. And then out behind you. And then right directly behind you, and then behind the other leg, and then sweep it round. Let's try that again. Back to center, mountain pose, shift the weight over, right foot, then left foot touches forward, and then diagonally, and out to the side. You might not even touch the floor. You could keep the foot completely off the floor if you want. And behind you, So this is each time this knee's got to try and find steadiness. Out behind, and try that nice sweep. Shift it over, forward, diagonally out, to the side, diagonally out behind you, directly behind, and then behind the other leg. Sweep it round. And then if you like those kind of sweeping circles, you could just try that, switching over, take a nice sweep, and then go round. And that will help work with coordination, balance, of course, steadiness in your standing leg foot. Okay, great. And then we're back to our mountain pose. Good. So great. So you just shake out the legs a little bit, shake out the arms. Good. So let's we're going to some standing poses now. So let's explore some of the warrior poses. And actually we're going to bring this into a little sequence because we've been looking at these poses now. So if you've been following this series, we've been working with some of the warrior poses, warrior 1, warrior 2, and so on. So it's just 3 poses that we're going to mix together. I'll briefly run through it now and then we'll go through it a little bit slower. So just a quick look. So I'm going to start at the front of the mat, left heel lifts, left foot slides back. So just watch first. We're going to, we'll just test that lunging movement first. So we'll do that a few times. And then from there, we're going to take one arm back, one arm forward, and we'll turn the chest, keeping the legs steady. And then we go the other way. So we'll do that a couple of times. And then we're going to move into warrior 2. So the back heel comes to the floor. And the whole time the hip, knee, ankle wants to stay aligned. And we'll go in and out a few times. And then from there, side angle pose. We're going to start with hand on the chest. Just turning the chest a little bit. Getting that nice movement whilst the knee stays steady. And then see if we can make a few arm circles. Okay, so let's do the 3 poses together. And that will work with really, stabilizing the knee. So quadriceps, glute muscles, we're strengthening here for finding that stability at the knee. So we're in mountain pose. Find those 3 points in the feet. And we're going to lift the left heel and slide the left foot back. So the heel is lifted. So this is like a high lunge. Now let's just check how that feels with the toes. So see how far you can sink the back knee towards the floor. And come up. You can do that about 3 times. Nice. Really working with a bit of range of movement there. And then we're going to hold it. So now we want steadiness in that front leg. Both legs actually. From the navel below, nothing moves. So raise the arms. You might inhale here. As you exhale, take the left arm forward, right arm back. So the chest is turning to the right. Arms come up. You could even straighten the leg a little bit there if you like. And then bend the knee as you take the left arm back, right arm forward. And come back up. And alternate. Nice strong legs. Great. One more time to the right if you can. And then as you take the right arm forward, left arm back, bring the back heel to the floor. So now we're still looking for that hip, knee, ankle alignment. If your hip is sticking right out, you might find you have to adjust the back foot and take it slightly off to the left. So here we can just take the arms up, and as you bend the knee, take the arms out and wide. This is our warrior 2. We've been doing this last week, if you remember, and particularly we're looking at the shoulders and the neck last week, so still be aware of that. Roll the shoulders back, so the top of the shoulder away from the ears, the back shoulders engaged, nice and broad across the chest. Now we've got that steadiness in the front leg, the neck turns, so keeping the outer edge of the back foot on the floor. So really still trying to find those 3 corners of, those 3 points in the bottom of the foot. And then from there, let's just bring the right hand to the knee, left hand to the chest, keep the hip, knee, ankle aligned here. the foot nice and steady, just get a little turn of the chest. So that's where our turn wants to come from, and from the navel, pretty much from the navel below, you're still. Legs are quite stable there. Okay, and then if that's going okay, we can take the arm up so the chest turns, sweep it round behind you. And so you could have this knee bent like this, holding that position. But also, if you're finding that, oh, my knee's, it's quite strong, you could even straighten the leg as you reach the arm up, and then bend the knee, so you can make it a little bit more of a kind of dynamic movement there. Great. And then the next time you sweep the arm out behind you, warrior two arms, gazing forward, last breath, lower the arms, and now let's step through. Okay, so we're back into our mountain pose. We're going to try that sequence on the other side. I'll just switch around, but you can now just step or slide your left foot back, sink, so see how that feels, sinking, coming back up. Can you find that balance in the front foot? And in the back foot, you're balancing between the ball of the big toe, ball of the little toe. Okay, and then the next time you sink, raise the arms. So now as your right arm comes forward, left arm back, chest turns to the left, and we're back up, and then left arm forward, right arm back, chest turns to the right. And it's not going to go very far, because our pelvis is fairly fixed in this position. So the pelvis in this position really won't move from center. Now next time you bring the arms up, you're going to take the left arm forward, right arm back, bring the right heel to the floor, roll the shoulders back. So our warrior two, you can take a few movements here, going in and out if you like. Breathing through the nose. Holding, shoulders roll back, reaching out, expanding out. Head might turn a little bit just to check the back of the neck sole. And then check the feet again, hip and the ankle aligned, front foot balanced. Front hand to the knee, other hand to the center of the chest, turning the chest, and back to center. That when we take the arm in a big circle, if your shoulder's happy with that, this is where that movement is coming from though, in the trunk. So it's the abdomen above, it's like above the navel. Sweep the arm around if you can. Again, if you want to just work with that, holding that leg like that, you could. If it feels a bit too strong, you could straighten the leg. You get a few nice big sweeping movements there. Okay, and we go back to warrior two arms, and then we're going to step forward, and then you're back to mountain pose, and you might like to, or before that, just go into a little turn. Okay, so let's just finish with our standing pose with a balance. So balances will work with the glute medius a little bit. There's a few other exercises you can do for that as well, but balances work quite well. It's the muscle between the iliac crest and the greater trochanter, and it kind of sort of fans out like this and then goes down into that side of the femur. So it's involved in raising the leg out to the side. It's also involved in just stabilizing you when you're standing. So we'll try the balance where we just go into the tree pose, and you can really notice what happens with your standing leg foot. So you're going to take the weight into your right foot, and you're going to see if you can feel that balance between the center of the heel, ball of the big toe, ball of the little toe. Cross the shin, lift the toes, take the arms out, palms up, raise the arms. So root down, so press into those 3 points, find that lift through the inner arch, through the inner thigh, up the front of the spine to the roof of the mouth. Find that balance in the foot, but at the same time we're on our standing leg, we're really getting that nice work for our glute medius. If it was weak, the opposite hip would drop down like that. So strong, we keep it lifted. And even that might be a way to work with that hip, let the other, maybe not in this position, but to let the hip, opposite hip lower and lift. You might even feel that, and that helps you to kind of find that nice engagement. Release. Let's try that on the other side. Shift the weight over to left, cross the shin, lift the toes, find that steadiness in the foot, the ankle, the knee, the hip. So everything's connected here. So if there's weakness in the hip, that's going to affect the knee, or tightness in the hip, that'll affect the knee, same in the ankle. Breathing. Rooting from the knee below, reaching tall from the knee above. Like a tree searching for the water, and the roots searching for water, and the branches and leaves reaching for the light. Coming down. Okay, great. Have another soft turn. So we're going to come to the floor now. So you might like to just curl down, or squat down. So curl or squat, maybe. Squat if you like. Can you squat? If you can squat, try squat. That's a deep knee flexion. Now, of course, if you've got knee prosthetic knees, you might not be able to do that. So just be comfortable. Malasana. Okay, and then from there, take a child pose. We're going to finish with one more exercise. Child's pose, of course, now that's a deep knee flexion. It doesn't always work for everyone. Possibly tight glute muscles that limit that, or the ankle doesn't plantar flex. So in that case, there's various options. You could have a rolled blanket under the shins, or a block between the bum and the heels. But for now, you might another option, just simply sideline child's pose. Okay, so then let's roll onto the back. And just take them a moment there to find your comfortable position. So we're just going to work with the bridge pose just for a little bit of glute maximus strengthening. And also this is a great one to help you find that stability again in the feet, in the 3 points of the feet. So you want the feet to feel like you can press evenly into the heels, and then the ball of the big toe and ball of the little toe. So if you kind of just find that place, the feet are roughly in line with your hip joints. And you can just lift the toes for a moment, and so the toes raise up, the ball of the big toe presses into the floor, and then bring the toes down. So locate the ball of the big toe, center of the heel. Now push into those points and the ball of the little toe. And as you lift the hips, make sure the back of the neck stays lengthened. Just feel that balance. If your knees drop out, notice that. Try and press through the mound of the big toe. Press. Make those glute muscles work. So the more you contract in the buttock muscles, the more the front of the hips will release. You can hold it there for a moment. And then when you feel ready to release, you come all the way back down. Okay, so now you can either just stick with that, so we'll go into lifting with both feet pressing down. Now if you can, try keep pressing with the right foot. Keep pressing with the right foot, take the weight off the left foot, lift the left toes, and just straighten out the leg in front of you. Hold it. you can, until that muscle really, you can't hold it anymore. Bring the left foot down now. Switch the weight over to the left foot, pressing the left foot down. If you can't manage that, keep both feet on the floor for the moment. Extend the other leg out. Hold it. Release when you feel you need to. And relax down. Okay, so we're not going to repeat that again just due to time constraints, but if you feel like you really need a little bit more of that, pause this video, do a few more, and that could be quite beneficial for you. So otherwise we're going to just finish off with a little soft turn, knees to the left and then knees to the right, and just repeating a couple of times. Head is just turning the opposite way. Okay, and then as you come back to center, you might like to just finish with a little arch and flatten movement. So we just roll the pelvis forward and roll the pelvis backwards. So just contract and release the back muscles. So, okay, so there you have a few things that you can do to bring back stability to the knees, but also the ankles. And a lot of that really works with developing awareness. So remember, ultimately, the more we can be aware of the body, the better we hold ourselves, the better we're able to control our movements. And then the less likely we're going to be putting strain on the joints and on the ligaments, especially the knees, the knee ligaments on the outside, but also on the inside of the knee joints, the cruciate ligaments will suffer when there's a lack of awareness, lack of correct functional movement. It's by no means everything you can do. There's lots of other things we can look at. And we'll look a little bit more at how the knees are affected when we come into sitting and kneeling positions next week. Now we're going to go into the relaxation. So let's take the time here to find the best position. You might have the knees bent or straighten the legs out. And again, maybe glasses off. Close the eyes. Take a deep breath in when you're ready. And as you exhale, just completely let go. Completely let go. Surrender your body weight now. And as you begin to let go, if you feel the lower back still feels tight, just bend the knees. Make sure the back of the neck is comfortable, so you can always put a cushion or a yoga block under the head. And now let's just sense where the feet meet the floor once again. Notice where the calves touch the floor, but also notice the back of the legs. Maybe there's more contact with the back of the legs in the floor after we've freed up the hamstrings a little bit. And notice the buttocks and the back of the pelvis on the floor, letting the weight of the legs, feet and pelvis release down. Sensing the curve in the spine, sensing the space between the lower back and the floor. Taking the awareness up into the upper back, broadening out into the shoulders, down the arms, into the hands, fingers, back up into the neck and throat. Noticing where the head touches the floor. Now take the awareness over the top of the head to the forehead. Let the forehead soften. Let the eyebrows and eyes soften. The jaw and mouth. The throat. The chest and abdomen. Hips, thighs, knees, shins, ankles. top of the feet and the toes. Sense your whole body here. Feel your breath moving in and out of your body. And let the whole body completely release with each out breath. So when you feel ready, you're going to bring a little bit of movement back now. Just take your time, carefully bringing yourself upright. So thanks for watching, everyone. Our class is finished there. We will continue to look at the little bit on the knees, and next week particularly looking at seated positions. Namaste.